The winter campaign. Welcome, Will.
Thank you, Jack.
Welcome to the winter campaign. We've decided to carry on filming down here at the cafe because it kind of brings you in.
It does.
We do have to do it when it's closed, but yeah, we thought we'd bring you down to the cafe these days because that's where all the action
That's
is.
where it happens, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Right, Will.
Yes.
What we're going to talk about this week is specifically things that are hard during the winter and what makes us have to adapt our offering. So, for example, let's kick off with this. In the summer, we give out less clothes than the winter. Now you might think because it's cold, yes it is, but also because it's wet. So often we need more clothes in the winter because of the high turnover.
Yeah.
Explain why that's difficult, Will, and what that could do for you if you're sleeping in wet clothes, but also why we're beginning to limit the amount of clothes because of our facilities.
Well, the first thing is that the weather is wetter. And what tends to happen with folk who are vulnerably housed, rough sleeping or sofa surfing or a combination of the two is that they quite often have to abandon their possessions. And if you combine that with the weather, then these possessions are going to get wet. And lugging wet clothes around is both impractical. So they're not lugged around in a lot of cases, they're just abandoned. And so they get abandoned in the high street, around the backs of shops and so forth. Those that do make their way here, either we make an evaluation that actually it's deteriorated so much we're going to have to throw it away, or we now, thankfully, have washing facilities.
Which has made a huge difference to the pressure on our clothes bank in the winter.
The health issue around dampness and wet situation, or being wet permanently, is the damage it does to people's bodies. For example, is you can get some really nasty foot infections through damp socks, damp shoes.
We've had literally people turning up with trench foot.
Yeah, and just being constantly cold, and what happens with that is just not being warm enough, and so putting on more and more layers. So the whole issue around cold weather, whether it's freezing, which is what we're due next week, just the sheer volume of damp clothing is really, really bad news for circulation, and it just makes for a very, very uncomfortable state.
It's the same with bedding as well. We get a lot of requests for bedding. Obviously, because again it's colder, but a lot more requests because if it rains one night, that's that bedding done, and they might condemn it or chuck it in a bin somewhere. Whereas if you bring it back here, we can wash it or whatever, but then it's getting it dry. That's a huge amount of material to get dry, so that's why we get through so much bedding. I
think the other thing as well, as a reminder to folk, is that we support people who are in accommodation. So that might be sofa surfing, or it might be their own accommodation.
Well, it's good that you went onto that, because what I wanted to talk to people about is just because people are inside doesn't mean that their stuff might not get wet. For example, if you haven't got enough money to put the heating on,
the dampness in the property,
dampness.
It creeps into everything. It creeps into clothing, possessions, and all sorts of things. So there's a massive amount of deterioration. So the donations of duvets, pillowcases, sheets, blankets, towels is really, really important. Could I just do a shout out that the quality that we want to give away is the best. If you've used a towel and you don't want it, I'm not sure I do. We don't want rubbish, because that doesn't say positive things when we gift it to somebody. So we want things that have use and have wear left in them, and that's really important. And a lot of things people say to me, well, you've supplied bedding on a couple of occasions, and so don't forget that a lot of the people we're working with don't have the washing facilities, and if they don't know about our washing facilities, then if it gets mould on it or breaks down in any way, they're going to throw it away. So
and just think about what that does to your mindset. If we're giving out stuff that's really low quality, that might make people think they're not worth anything. That worthlessness nature is what can impact people and keep them in that circle of downward progression that we want to lift them out of.
That's right. It's about lifting people out of the place they're at. So being generous, giving the best we can, says an awful lot about the gift. So if you're thinking about gifting, just think about that as a process. How would you feel if somebody gave you something that clearly has been used and wasn't fit for purpose? Providing washing facilities, drying facilities, or new bedding are the sort of things that enable somebody to spend the money that they do have on the things that are essential, like the food, like the rent. So it's part of that care package. A coat here, socks, underpants, whatever it is, it means that money can be focused in the direction that's the most important.
And also, if it's focused in that direction, people can go a month without living hand to mouth.
Yeah.
And the impact that has on your mental health is absolutely massive.
Just point out a safety aspect. If you do see clothes or abandoned bedding in the street, can I suggest you kick it into the corner and you don't put your hands or put your fingers into it? It could be soiled. That's unpleasant enough, or it could have something sharp in, and I'm thinking of syringes. So I'm just as a safety thing, if you see something that you think, well, actually I could helpfully push that to one side, please use your feet to move it to one side.
Good safety tip there. Thank you very much,
That's
Will.
all right, Jack.
Thank you very much for joining us again this week. Hob News, we promise, is back. It was away last week because I was very, very ill.
It's an action-packed one this
We've got
Friday.
loads of stuff to talk about, but yes, I apologise for last week. I couldn't stand here and not be on the toilet at the same time. Right, we are finished there. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, Hob News will be back on Sunday at 4. This is up every Wednesday at 6. Go back and check out all the others over on YouTube if you've missed any. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and share these videos and get them out everywhere. I'll just say Hob Vehicle. Check out our Facebook if you're not quite sure what that means. We will see you next time. Thank you very much for watching once again. Goodbye.